On today's episode, we'll be reviewing the Gator Bowl. We'll be talking a little bit about the Miami Clemson basketball games, and then we'll be giving you, Wolfpack Nation, a chance to get to know us and what this channel is going to be all about. So, with that being said, let's get this episode started. Hey, Wolfpack Nation, this is Blade Smith coming to you, giving you the first episode of Tuffy Talk. Here with my man and my co-host, Macon Adams. Macon, hope you're doing well, my man.
Doing pretty good, bud. Just glad to be doing this for the first time, and I feel like I talk state stuff all the time, and I feel like with you being as good of friends I've been for a while, and this is a really cool idea. I'm just kind of looking forward to being able to have a really solid place to share thoughts about anything state related. Just kind of shoot the breeze.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, man. Absolutely. Yeah, we're looking forward to this. Really excited to finally get kicked off here and get rolling. We're really looking forward, Wolfpack Nation, for you guys to get to know us, and we look forward to getting to know you guys as well, talking with y'all about NC State, not only present, but also past and future, and also talking about not only football, basketball, but all sports, and doing it through different ways, such as debating topics, debating lists, doing interviews, talking about social media, things like that. So every episode will be different and with different content that hopefully you guys will all enjoy and like, and we hope to build off of it with your feedback as well. So feel free to send us any feedback that you guys have in the comment section or direct message us on Twitter, Instagram. So I'm looking forward to really building off of this. So with that being said, the first segment, which we'll be doing, is called our favorite and least favorite sports moments in NC State history. And this is an opportunity again for you guys to get to know us and us to talk a little bit about NC State a little bit and our past. So with that being said, Macon, I'll pass over to you to give your first favorite moment and let's talk it out.
Well, if we're gonna go all time, like what you said, then obviously the championships are great. But I think for
Yeah.
for just for just when what we've personally experienced,
Yeah.
um, I think for me, my favorite memory is, and there's a ton of them. There's been a lot of like ups and downs of state, but I feel like for me, my favorite one was when back in 2012 when Florida State came to town and they were number 3 in football. And they came to Carter Finley, and we had Mike Glennon and Brian Underwood and all those guys. And everybody knows how the game went down. Or for those who don't, at least the State came back at the very end and had like a last second touchdown with I think 16 seconds left. Uh, it was Mike Glennon to Brian Underwood. That game was awesome to me. That was one of my first moments as a, really solidifying how much I was passionate for state, but also with the one, not with it being epic like it was also more sentimentally cool to me because my brother was there with me, and I had tried to get him to go to a game beforehand, the weekend beforehand. I think we had been playing Citadel, and I was trying to get to go to that game, a game I thought for sure we would win, and it just didn't work out for some reason. I think he had some school related, and I was trying to talk to him. Well, I guess I could still bring him to the Florida State game, but we're gonna get crushed, and it'd be a big game. But I really like for him to see a game we're gonna win. I was kind of disappointed in that regard, so I was like, okay, well, you can still come. So we got him a fake student ID, not fake student. It was a real student ID, but he was probably 12 at the time and maybe 13. Didn't look anything like a college student. And the student ID he had was a picture of a buddy of mine who has a beard and looks nothing like my brother. And my brother was really short. He's 13 at the time, so he got in the security student section. It sucks. So you can get by with that kind of stuff. That would end up being a running joke. We got him in the stand. I think a buddy of mine brought his brother with him as well, and got in there, and we're getting through the game, and I don't think we had scored a point at halftime. I think it was, I can't remember how. I think we had 0 points at halftime. I thought, okay, this is looking rough. But then as the second half got going, and we started playing better, and we kept fighting. And I remember that last drive was like we just converted. I feel like we converted like 3 or 4 fourth down plays. Maybe we didn't, but it felt like that. And I just remember we kept slowly making our way forward towards the front of the student section. And by the time that last touchdown, you know, that last touchdown was scored, and we came to the front. All of those players jumped in. You can still find pictures to this day of me and my brother on the front row with all those players jumping into the stadium, into the stands, and that was just a really cool memory. I remember we have a picture I still have. It's probably my favorite pictures of me and my brother up on top of the student section, kind of taking a picture of us back on the field to kind of remember that day. And that was, I would say, it's easily my favorite memory for a state game. Football, basketball. I mean, apart from anytime we beat Carolina, but
Hmm.
that one has sentimental value to me.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no, it really stood out to me about that game how low scoring it was. It was definitely shocking because I know that especially with that offense from Florida State having EJ Manuel, and at
That's
the
right.
time even Kelvin Benjamin as well, that it was expected to be a high scoring offense. So the fact that the defense really gave us the opportunity in the second half to come back and win that game was huge.
Right.
And so definitely big shocker there. So yeah, and then for me, so for those of you who don't know, I was a student from 2013 to 2017 at State, and I was also a football equipment manager. And last year at State, my last football season, it was the Brian Finley's first year, and we were playing Notre Dame in the famous Hurricane Matthews game,
Oh yeah.
and yeah, and that was by far, I mean, easily my favorite moment of all time, just because of how unique of a game it was. I mean, I can't imagine making that you or I maybe will ever go through a game as unique as that. And the fact that not only was it raining, but it was literally in the middle of a hurricane, and it
Yeah.
was not only raining during the game, but way before the game. So I mean, the field was literally a pool,
I
and
feel like they
it
should,
was,
like, a lot of people say they shouldn't even play the game because
yeah,
it was so bad weather wise. But I was
they
there,
might have.
and that was actually on my birthday. Um,
Mhm.
and I remember going to the game in my dad's hunting waders when he goes like duck hunting,
Mhm.
and I had like a waterproof coat on. I had a few of the layers on. I remember it was cold that day as well, but I just remember being in the stands, not being able to see the other side of the stadium. I mean, the way side and or the east side, and it's you couldn't see hardly anything, and you could hear the crowd cheering through the wind and the rain. Not being able to see them was epic enough, but then you see the guys tackling, and they're sliding 10 feet through the on the field, and just the momentum carrying as far as they did. So and at halftime, I had to go and dump the water out of my waiter because there was so much water. I had some friends
Yeah.
of mine in Blacksburg that I lived there after I graduated and graduated from state. And I had buddies texting me saying, I have never seen that much water in a football stadium before ever. And I think at the post game, I think they wrote down for the weather instead of having like storm or rain, they wrote down Hurricane Matthew because that's all you really need to know about that game.
Yeah. Yeah. It was crazy to me, and it's still one of my favorite moments during that game too. Was at halftime when we were up 3-0, and I still remember to this day talking to a graduate assistant who was telling me, who was office graduate assistant, who told me that us being up 3-0, that might win us the game. Just that's it, 3 points. We
Yeah.
might win us the game just because of simply how the game was going, and also too how much Notre Dame was throwing the ball, which still a huge mystery to me why Notre Dame was throwing the ball that much. But I truly think that's one of the differences of why we won that game is because we decided to run the ball
Yeah, they had
earlier
Kaiser.
than
They
Notre
had
Dame did.
Kaiser that game, and I remember him being an elite arm talent. I don't remember who the running back was that game, but I remember thinking like, "Oh man, they're going to just torch us all up and down the field." And
Hmm.
I just I didn't get it either. I remember that too, thinking, "Why are they trying to throw the ball so much in this?" I mean,
Exactly.
to me, you mentioned the field goal. I kind of thought that game it was going to end up coming down to whoever scores touchdowns going to win because nobody could move this ball.
Yep.
The field goal may have been it. I just when Pharaoh blocked that field goal, Pharaoh McKeever blocked that
Hmm.
field goal, I was like, I
Yeah.
feel like this is our game now. Like we got
It was.
this now.
We actually blocked a punt towards the
Oh,
end,
field goal, not
but
field
I
goal,
know what you're
punt.
saying.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. So yeah, Macon. So give me your worst moment.
Worst moment.
Worst
There's a
moment.
lot of those too. I I'm tempted to talk about the St. Louis game when State Hoops went into the NCAA tournament and just choked with TJ Warren, and you just I feel like we had a big lead and we just blew it. I'm tend to talk about that one, but I feel like the one I have to talk about I was when State lost to Maryland back in I think it was 2010,
2010. Yep.
2010, and that was my freshman year of college. I went to State from 2010 to 2014, um, and I know everybody talks about how State hasn't won a championship. I mean, we've won wrestling now. We've won women's basketball, won an ACC championship. We've we've done really good in other sports, but for like football, basketball, we just have not done. And we had a golden opportunity there to go to the ACC
Mhm.
tournament, and yeah, I think we would have won. But
Mhm.
that was Russell Wilson on that team. That was who else? Terrell Manning, Nate
Mhm.
Irving, Audie Cole. Who else on that team?
You had Earl Wolf. You had on offense. You had Owen Spencer, Darrell
Yep,
Davis, Jarvis Williams,
yep,
T.J. Graham. You had George Bryan. So
yeah.
you had a and you
You
had
were just
J.R.
loaded.
Sweezy. I
Yeah,
mean,
you
you
felt like
had a
you're
team.
loaded, and you just blew it. All you had to do was win at Maryland, and you blew it. And
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
that one just hurts. I mean, there's other games that individually really hurt. I mean, I really am tempted to talk about the Bambard kick. I mean, that's all you really know. I saw one. I don't know if it was on. I think maybe on Twitter. Someone asked like a poll like describe like post like a word, just one word that would describe exactly like a game that caused pain. And I feel like all you need to say is Bambard because
Yeah.
that kick, I hate it for the guy. Um, that game just hurts. As a State fan, you're not going to forget that one. But
No.
I really
Yeah.
think that as an individual perspective, that game was big to lose. But the losing to Maryland when you have a chance to go potentially win a championship, and that's not coming very often right now with Clemson being as dominant as they are.
Hmm.
It's
Yeah.
that one was really tough to swallow.
Yeah, and for me, being a manager, my senior year, the next game after the Notre Dame game was the Clemson game, and so
Well, that's
to
right. That
go
was
right
tough.
from
Yeah.
a game like that to Clemson and play the way we did, as hard as we did, like with the goal line
You mean
stands.
from the Notre Dame game to the Clemson game?
Yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah, yeah.
Right. Right. Right.
And so to go against Clemson and play as hard as we did, including the goal line stand, which was a huge momentum change for us, and then end like that was awful for a couple reasons. Obviously, it was awful to lose that game, since I mean I truly think that we deserved to win that game. But also I did really feel for Bam Vargas. I mean he really was and is a great guy, and so I knew that that was going to really hurt him and everybody for a while. So
Yeah, I feel
it
like the death threats he
fortunate.
got. You're just a that guy felt terrible, and he should. I mean, he should have a lot, but
Yeah.
he didn't deserve a lot of the stuff that he got a lot from State fans. I feel like that was one of the worst looks that State fans have gotten in recent memory. Just
Hmm.
chewing him out, unfairly. I mean, he made a mistake. I mean, how many other games have State players
Made
cost him?
mistakes
How many times have
all
we
the time.
individually make mistakes? But I mean, like that right
Yeah.
there, you get death threats like that and get chewed out all
Yeah.
the time. He didn't deserve that,
Yeah.
and I feel bad
No,
for him. But he'll always, I mean, he'll always remember for missing that field goal.
I know. It's 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 the unfortunate reality. So, but it is what it is,
Yeah, but
unfortunately. So just gotta
that's
move
probably
on.
mine.
So
What's yours?
well, that Clemson game. So
Oh, the
I
Clemson
mean
game.
that
Yeah,
really was it with me. I mean, I've shared it with you. It was unfortunate. It really blew to really be on that field, but then also too, Clemson is famous for when they win a football game, the fans will come onto the field, and so for them to come onto the field after that game, and while we're trying to pack up the sideline and pack up the truck, it was just just kind of rubbing that noogie a little bit harder.
yeah.
It was a
I
tough pill to
didn't, and I
swallow,
think
but
that's the
yeah.
same year that Pittsburgh ended up beating them. Didn't Pittsburgh beat them
Mm.
that year?
Yep, that's right with James
So it
Conner.
kind of, that was you
That
watch
was a
them
tough one.
actually get it done, and we couldn't. I was like, man, that stinks.
I know. All right, so now we'll move on to talking about some of the activities that have gone on this past week. Definitely a tough week for NC State
Yeah,
sports,
it was
but
a tough week.
we'll talk about it a little bit here. So first, talking about the Gator Bowl. So NC State fell short, unfortunately, to Kentucky 23-21. Couldn't quite pull it out. So Macon, do you have any specific uh, observations from that game?
So as far as takeaways go, I really thought we let them do what they wanted to do offensively. I feel like if you watch, you knew they were going into the game. They were a running team, and you knew they were not going to chuck the ball down the field. All they really want to do is pound the ground, and they did. You go look at the stat line. They had 281 rushing yards to our 50. I feel like that, and that's the other part of it. I mean, they just dominated us on both lines of scrimmage, both sides of the ball. Um, when you look at rushing yards, that's all you need to see. If you're not going to win in the trenches, you're really not going to win many games. And we
Mm-hmm.
didn't this game, and that number there shows it. But a lot of from a bigger picture, we did throw the ball more than they did. We had 268 passing yards to their 99, and that kind of bounces out, and the total yards about 318 to 380 or so. It's like 62-yard difference. So you think when you look at that, it's pretty similar to how much each team was able to move the ball. But when you think about how much they drained the clock down, you think about how much they dominated a line of scrimmage, and I would say the biggest thing to me, because State still had a chance to win the game. I really think it comes down to two things too. I think it's field goals, missed field goals, I should say, and turnovers. We had 3 interceptions, and they had none.
Yeah.
Uh, you throw the ball, throw 3 picks, you're not going to win many games. You
Yeah.
get run, you get run over like we did. You're not going to
Yeah.
win many games. Um,
Absolutely.
but
Well, and especially the thing that really stood out to me was the 50 rushing yards off of 26 attempts for us. That was particularly disappointing just because of the fact that since we do have such a deep running back room with Jordan Houston, with Ricky Person, with Zonovan Knight, you would think that we would have guys fresh enough and also too obviously talented enough to get more than 2 yards a rush. And because that's why I particularly don't really put a lot of necessarily the offensive struggles on Hockman. I know obviously he did have a rough game, but our running backs didn't really help him much either. I mean,
no, they
our
didn't.
running game didn't really help them much either. It really forced Bailey to really be our saving grace, unfortunately, which is not obviously a situation he needed or should have been in. So, but and even on top of that, when Kentucky went into that game and you asked them how they wanted the game to go, pretty much how the game went is
They
how they
did
wanted it to
exactly what
go.
they wanted to do. We
Exactly.
let them do basically what they wanted to do, and
Yeah.
I don't I don't know how that happens, but
Yeah.
it did, and
Yeah.
I hate that for Bailey. At the same time,
Mhm.
I know State fans just saw if you haven't already. He decided to transfer out of the program, and we wish him the best, and as any
Absolutely.
State fan should, because that guy, I mean, he is a huge reason why we have the season that we had this year when we had no expectations of being
Yeah.
good at all. And
Yeah.
if you had told me going into the season we'd be 8-win team, I would have said you're probably crazy. Like there's no way that's happening. I mean, it would be a sheer miracle for us to be that way. And you
Well,
know,
and particularly after Devin went down too.
yeah.
After Devin
But
went
yeah,
down.
but the first few games you won won against Wake Forest, and you felt like okay, you got something against Wake Forest, but you felt like they always are a pest to you, and as far as you can't seem to hardly beat them. Sometimes they always seem to find a way to beat you, and we win that game, and then we go to Virginia Tech, and we just get obliterated. I don't know what happened that game. That was atrocious. That was kind of one of those
Yeah.
burn the tape kind of games, maybe, but
Mhm.
um, you do that, and Bailey does not look like the answer.
Yeah.
And at that point, Devin had, I think, was still coming back from COVID stuff. He comes back in. He looks really good. And I think as a side note, he I think was statistically better than Sam Howell at that period in time. So I enjoyed that a little bit. But he gets injured at the Duke game, and they got to bring Bailey back in. And I know State fans, they did and I did, or if you did and I know I did, was thinking, okay, you see Bailey come back in, you're like, that felt like the season was going to be over at that point because you've already seen Bailey play 2 games, and one of your last memories is the Virginia Tech game, and that was atrocious. And Leary looks like he's the answer,
Mhm.
um, but then Bailey comes back in the rest of the season for the most part and is playing like I don't want to say lights out, but he is playing so much better than what he did play. and
Yeah.
it doesn't even look like the same guy. To me,
No.
that's a credit to Tim Beck for for training and getting Bailey to that point. Working the
Mhm.
offense in favor of what Bailey was comfortable with,
Yeah.
and putting the guys in situations where they do. But even still, it's getting Bailey there, and then obviously Bailey, getting him to the point where he's working in the gym. It's credit to him, obviously, as well.
Yeah.
But I hate it for a guy like that to go out in a bowl game and just kind of look like he did back against Virginia Tech. It didn't.
Yeah.
It just was not encouraging in that regard. But you can't
He
let that take away from how great of a
his
season
overall
he
picture.
had for us.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But
No. He
overall, yeah,
right. Absolutely. Yeah. No. He was definitely one of the huge reasons, and we definitely thank him for that, and definitely wish him best of luck in his in all his future as well. So now. Now that we've talked a little bit about the Gator Bowl, now we can talk a little bit about basketball.
yeah.
Obviously, we had two games this week, Clemson and Miami. Obviously, both didn't turn out the way we wanted them to. Obviously, Clemson, it was definitely a hard fought game. And obviously, one of the biggest things which stood out, I think, to all fans was the turnovers in late in the game when we really didn't need them. And that was the biggest thing to me. And especially, unfortunately, from I know a couple of them were by Devin Daniels, who one of our senior guys, not necessarily put all the blame on him for sure, but I just know after the game, it really stood out to me. But, obviously it was a huge good sign as well that obviously he understood that where he made his mistakes and obviously put us in bad situations. But uh, really, particularly the game that I'm really most focused on is really that Miami game, just because of the fact that after a game like Clemson, where we had an opportunity to win the game, and especially again going into overtime, uh, but didn't really see that bounce back, and actually even saw that regression, and which is odd, especially knowing how Coach Keats and his philosophy is. So because like some of the stats from the Miami game is that we shot 38% field goals. We had 16 turnovers and 19 fouls. And again, the 16 turnovers to me is just crazy to me, because
It
I
doesn't
would
happen a
figure
lot with
that
us.
again,
We're
that would
usually
be
the
one of
ones
the
forcing the
focus points,
turnovers. Yeah,
especially for this game, is to not turn the ball over. Do not give the ball the free points. The only way that they're going to get the ball is from us shooting towards the basket, period. And so that was one of the huge kind of like, oh, come on, for me.
yeah.
So any input there making?
For me, like you mentioned, I feel like we lost this game coming down to free throws and turnovers. Like you said, it was, we're averaging more points per game than what we played, and I feel like a lot of that was you saw like that number of fouls. They got to the line more than we did,
Yeah.
and uh, I feel like that's about the story of the game. I mean,
Yeah.
you didn't have Devin Daniels playing great this game. He did
Yeah.
come. He started to come on during the second half,
Hmm.
but DJ had a double double. He had a really good game, but Braxton Beverly didn't really play well, and he's one of your seniors. Devin Daniels, like I just said. I will say Thomas Allen looked much better this game. He's a guy that had, I think he had mentioned before, he had come in thinking, with this understanding he was going to be like a shooter, and he's really known for his shooting ability. And to this point in the season, he really had not shown that too well. But this game, yeah, I think he was 4 or 5 from 3, and he was a
Yeah.
big reason why I feel like we were even in the games to some point, because he seemed like he was hitting some big shots for us.
Yeah.
But I really felt like it came down to turnovers and free
Yeah.
throws. It's really all. And I can tell you one thing too. That Wong for for Miami, that dude can play, man. He'd be like every time they needed a bucket, he would just go and get one. There were some layups. I know one layup he had was a reverse layup. I don't know how that ball went in. It felt like it bounced over the rim a few times, but
Yeah.
he just like every time he wanted to go get it, he needed his team to get a bucket. He went and got it. I know there's another possession where the commentators, I think Wes Durham was calling the game. He was there like saying it was like 8 minutes left in the shot clock, and we had almost forced a turnover like 3 times in that one possession. And he got the ball, kind of settled down, and just took it to the lane and scored. Like I think he was through DJ or through Manny, and he had some. I can't
Yeah.
remember what's on him. Maybe it was Jericho, but I was really impressed by Wong for them. They didn't have Chris Likes, they didn't have McGusky. Chris Likes is one of their best, it might arguably their best player on their team, and I thought when I saw that, I was like, I feel like pretty comfortable. I think we were favored by like 6.5 points, but we just turned the ball over too much, and we got them to the line too much, and Wong was clutch for them.
Well, especially coming from such a deep and I would say senior team like we have, in
Yeah,
particularly having guys like Braxton and Devin and DJ, that again we would have that bounce back. But again, hopefully, just like Keith said, it's something about getting it out of our system or whatever it is, and so hopefully that happens. Obviously, we got a game on Wednesday against Florida State, so we really need that bounce back. We really need this win against a quality Florida State team for sure.
yeah.
So last thing here for you guys, Wolfpack Nation, is we're going to do what we call Tweet of the Week. And this is one of the segments which we'll do ever so often during our episodes. So we'll start off here. So the one which I have making is from Andrew Schnitker. Hope I said his name right.
Yeah,
He said NC State football has won at least 8 games in 3 of the last 4 seasons. The Wolfpack has averaged 7.5 wins per year over that time frame, and that's with a 4-win season last year. So the
wow.
reason why this stood out to me particularly was I know that, especially over State's history, particularly the O'Brien years, there and even the Amato years, some as well, there would be times where we would be heading into that last game of the season, that 12th game, pushing to try and get a win to make a bowl game. And so basically what this is saying, since we averaged 7.5, is that we haven't had that. We haven't had to worry about that, which is obviously a sign to me, I feel like, of that we're heading in the right direction, just
Oh yeah.
because it shows that we're at least more consistently winning games that we need to win. Because I know that's one of the big things that State's always known for, is losing that game that we're not supposed to lose. And actually this season, one thing as well, which I was actually double checking before we started, was that for every game that we were favored, we won this
Yeah,
season.
we didn't lose the game we weren't supposed to lose. We didn't win a game we were supposed to
Exactly.
win. But to say, and that sounds very mediocre, and you could argue that. I know a lot of fans feel like State's been mediocre forever, but
Mhm.
I don't know of a year that's not we've not lost a game we weren't supposed to lose, kind of thing. So that's something.
Well, and the one big thing too, which I've always been trying to tell people as well, is if you look at Clemson, and specifically Dabo Swinney's tenure, it the program really turned to pushing towards winning a national championship when he got those great leaders that could really hold the locker room, that could also to play as a leader on the field as well, specifically like Deshaun Watson, Mike
Yeah,
Williams, and then I can't remember the name of the one that are key middle linebackers, but again, I know that they had some great leadership there that really played through, and also too could always show up and play big when they needed him to. And so one of the examples that really stood out to me this year was obviously Bailey Hawkman stood up and really manned up when he had to this season. But also to like look at Peyton Wilson, all of his injury issues this year. I know that Georgia Tech game
that
he
dude's a
played
stud, man. He's
with
crazy
2
good.
separated shoulders,
Yeah, that was one of the
and
last. That was I think it was the last image you have of Peyton playing in that last game. I mean,
which is crazy.
I feel like
Playing,
you watch his arms just hanging there. It's like his dude's giving
yeah,
everything he's
and,
got.
and he made the plays that he had to, and so I'm saying, I mean, I truly think we are finally getting those guys and really getting those guys that are buying in, and it's obvious to me by Emeka and now we know Joseph and who else? Peyton
So
Wilson
you got
obviously
Peyton
are all
Wilson,
staying.
Emeka, Mezzi. I think you're kind of getting to my tweet of the week. But
Yeah.
you got Skolthorpe. I think it's kind of still decided. You don't know about Daniel Joseph. Bailey's check. Bailey's transferring. Um, I think the biggest ones would be Emeka and Peyton. Those
Yeah.
guys come back. You kind of thought they were 50-50, but yeah, those having those guys back is big.
Yeah, it definitely is very exciting to see finally what can move forward with next season. I truly think that, I mean, we better opponents better watch out. Let's put it that way. I think offense wise, we got a lot of key guys back, and I think defense wise, we have a lot of returning guys and also a lot of new guys with like Corey Dundon from FSU. Going to be a huge
Yo,
get for
dude, getting
us.
that guy.
For
I mean,
sure.
you could talk about session for a while. I mean, getting out of that, that's like, if people don't know how they do recruiting rankings, they'll do like different star levels, and they, I feel like I mean, there's so many misses when it comes to recruiting rankings in the first place. I'm not going to go on that tangent because I mean, like Russell Wilson was a 2-star guy, and Russell Wilson is not a 2-star guy. They just kind of gave him demerits because he was short. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
but that's beside the point. When you get a guy like Corey Durden, he's like a 5. He's like when you think of 5-star talent coming in, he's like a 6-star guy. You could even a 7-star guy. I saw one thing that was saying he was like a top 3 interior defensive lineman returning in the nation, and he's coming to state. So
Yeah.
that was huge.
Huge replacement for Aleem.
Yeah,
Huge
I mean,
replacement.
yeah, you can't overstate that.
Absolutely. So we look forward to seeing what's going on next season. So
Yeah.
with that, Macon, I think we'll wrap it up here. So thank you all again for tuning in. Please like and subscribe this video, and please follow us on Twitter and Instagram. And please feel free to message us directly. We'd love to hear from you all. And please tune in next week for our next episode. And we look forward to talking to y'all again. So with that, please stay safe and always go Pack.